I use a C word all the time now, and the C word is coward. This country does nothing for me, gives me nothing and persecutes me. Why am I fighting for it? To stop internal revolutions, they have to have external enemies.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what all dictators have to have, external enemies. But what really makes us happy is family, friends, children and community. That's what makes you happy.
Yeah.
You're a drain, and we know you're dying, you've only got 4 months left to live, but this is going into your savings, Mum. By the time you die, there's going to be nothing left for little Jimmy and Margaret.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's my 4th book. This book is called England, My England, The Death and Resurrection of the Greatest Country Ever to Exist. I started writing it. I decided I was going to write it after the Stockport incident. That was a turning point. I went, I need to write something about this. And I wrote an article about how we could be heading to civil war. And that then turned into the book. I'd written many articles before that on different parts of it. And luckily, they all fitted into the book. They needed changing a bit, but some of the work had been done. So the book, I wrote the book quicker than it would normally take me to write a book. I wanted to put on paper the same sort of discussion we started this podcast with about personal responsibility, about this country is not finished. And the more people degrade this country and talk this country down, well, the worse this country is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I've had personal friends say to me, I've had a couple, one wants to move to Poland, and one wants to move to Lithuania, 2 want to move to America, because this country's crap, this country's over, this country's finished, immigration has killed it. And I went, all right, so you want to be a migrant, do you? And go to another country, and you're complaining about migrants coming here. So now you're just going to be a different type of migrant going somewhere else. Is that what you're telling me? And you can see him going, yeah. Oh, sorry, having this conversation with Nick. I forget sometimes he's an arse. And what people, and then I use the C word then. I use the C word all the time now. And the C word is coward. So I say to them, so you're going to run away.
Yeah.
So your answer to all our problems in this country is you're going to run away. Good job you weren't around in 1939, isn't it? Yeah. When Nazi Germany was just across the channel. Good job you didn't run away then. What happened if all the Englishmen would have ran away then? What about when Napoleon, again, was opposite the channel? He was waiting for 6 hours of nice weather. That's all he said he was waiting for, to launch an invasion into England. Good job we weren't around then, were you, running away? Spanish Armada. 3 times the Spanish tried to invade the UK, England. And 3 times we stopped the Armada. Sometimes lucky with the weather, but we stopped them. Good job you weren't around then because you'd have ran away. Is that what you're telling me? You sound like a coward. And I'm frank with people now because that's what they are, the cowards. Rather than saying, do you know what, Nick, this country's a mess, but I'm going to stay and fight because it's the only way you get a better country.
I don't think most of them are cowards because they're more than willing to go and get in a fucking scrap on a Friday night. Most of the blokes I know are more than willing
bravery
to go and have a
There's
scrap.
A fine line between bravery
but
and
are they the men who are saying they want to emigrate?
Some of them, yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, I would. Exactly. I don't know who you're referring to there, but
well, they're the same people that will say those
some
kind of
them
people will say this country's fucked. We should be leaving anyway.
And that's because partly coward, but partly because they can't figure out how to save it. Mm-hmm. They automatically think, well, it can't be saved.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to them is, you're in a nice way. You're not clever enough to work out the answers. That's what you mean. There's many answers how we improve this country, how we save this country. Just because you can't figure that out doesn't mean someone else can't figure that out. And just because you say this country is over, you say this country is over because that gives you an excuse then. If this country
gives you an out. Yeah.
Gives you an out. If this country is over, then there's no point me trying to fight for it and trying to fix it because this country is finished. So these are all excuses you give yourself not to take personal responsibility for your country. So if we had people like that when we had conscription in the First and Second World War, we had children joining up.
Yeah, kids at 16,
13, 14-year-olds joining up in the First World War.
Yeah.
And now they did a questionnaire with young people a couple of months ago between 18 and 34, and something like a third of young men in this country between 18 and 34 said they wouldn't even fight for the country if it was being invaded.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's
See,
how
we spoke this as well, haven't we? We said that if our government now decided that we needed to go abroad to fight, I wouldn't trust them enough to go and fight for them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big problem as well. Is the trust in why we're going to war. But if there was a genuine reason,
I think Iraq
it's tough.
did that. And
Another one would be, not so being sent to war, but another one would be, what are you fighting for?
Yeah.
You're fighting for this country. Oh, the country that spent the last 50 years telling white men that you're the problem.
But now you need us.
Persecuting white men. Can't get certain jobs because you're a white man. You know, you live in a country where you can't afford to buy a home, where if you demonstrate on the streets around problems, you'll be arrested. You can't tweet on Twitter in case you do 3 years in jail. And you want me to fight for this country? Maybe, someone will say, maybe I'll be better off if Putin invades. Because Putin sounds like a man to me. I wouldn't want anyone to invade. You know, I'm an English patriot. This country should only be run by English patriots. But you can understand how the thought process goes to this country.
You can see the logic in it.
Yeah, this country does nothing for me, gives me nothing, and persecutes me. Why am I fighting for it? Because whoever replaces the British government,
it's hard to argue.
Can they be any worse and treat me any worse than you treat me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard argument to go against, isn't it?
A lot of this, which I mentioned in the book, is foreign interference in our state and in our government and in our communities. This has been going on.
And ineptitude in the leaders.
Again, yeah. But if you look at it as foreign powers, so during the Cold War, it was Russia.
Yeah.
The best way to conquer a country is to demoralise the people who live there. They're less likely to fight. So the Russians started it during the Cold War. Russia's not a problem to us anymore now. Russia can't even beat Ukraine, for God's sake. They're going to do anything else in Europe? I don't think so. China is the threat we need to be careful of. We'll be having a war with China in our lifetime.
Yeah.
A war's coming. So China plays the long game. You know, Chinese.
If they go after Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they won't stop at Taiwan. You know, they'll be going into Russia. There's all sorts China wants.
Yeah.
And China will want wars because if China does not have external enemies, they will be having civil war in China. China is huge. China is something like 3-4 times the size of Europe. And every province in China is like a European country to a certain extent. Completely different to the province next door.
Have you listened to the Rogan podcast with that? What was his name, Dan? He went through the statistics of China and the population decrease is just it's fucking running off a cliff.
Yeah.
He reckons by 2040 the country will be almost dead on its arse.
Possibly, I've not seen that, but I know that China internal strife will happen because you've got a big middle class now. So when they start getting poorer, they're not going to be happy with it.
Yeah.
The more money the provinces have got, the more they can see the outside world, the more they're going to want to be separate. Nationalism will take over. Yeah. Chinese Communist Party kills them all for that. But how much can they kill for that? How many can they kill? So to stop internal revolutions, they have to have external enemies.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what all dictators have to have, external enemies. We're saving you from them.
Yeah.
If there's no one to save you from, you're going to start looking at me as the enemy. So there's always external enemies. So China will create wars to keep their people in line. But they've been planting seeds across the West. You know, they've infiltrated the universities.
Oh, massively.
They funded a lot of the LGBT nonsense and the Free Palestine nonsense. Our enemies are funding this because it's slowly destroying us. We're doing the same in some other countries.
Oh yeah.
This isn't new. People have always done this throughout, millennia. This is what you do before you have wars. You try to demoralise your enemy, and that's happening to us. And young people are demoralised. The country's demoralised. We don't trust anyone.
No.
We don't know our neighbours anymore now. We're too transient. You don't live in the same house for that long now. You don't know your neighbours, your children, don't grow up in the same area.
You're not involved in the community as much.
In the community, these are all things that are making us unhappy and depressed. And then you wonder why 20% of women in the UK are on antidepressants. You wonder why 5,000 men in England and Wales kill themselves every year. Because we're unhappy.
Yeah.
We don't know why we're unhappy. And we end up buying stuff, and that makes us happy for 30 seconds. And then we're unhappy again for another year till we buy something else new and expensive and shiny. That makes us happy for 30 seconds. But what really makes us happy is family, friends, children and community. That's what makes you happy. Women are on antidepressants because many of them are not having children. That's the greatest gift to a woman, is to have a baby grow inside them and then give birth and be a mother. No, women are semi-divine. No, they create life. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But feminism have told women that's a crap job. Men will get you pregnant to control you. The best thing you can do is have a career. Have a career? How many women do you think lie on a deathbed going, oh, if only I could have signed that deal with Fujitsu, I'd have been so much happier. No. People lie on their deathbed saying, I should have been a better son.
Yeah.
Should have been a better wife, a better husband.
Yeah.
That's what people say in a deathbed. And that's because when you're dying, you realise what was important. And all this other bullshit we have isn't important. It's family, it's children, it's friends.
Is it because we don't hear that from our grandparents anymore? They just get shoved in a care home and...
That's almost as bad as the abortion issue.
Yeah.
So
that angers me more than anything.
What do we do now with our old people? We dump them onto the state, don't we? So the state can look after them. The state can employ immigrants to wipe their ass and look after them on minimum wage, who then abuse them.
Yeah.
Because we don't want them. We see old people now as a problem. I'll put you in a home. And that's only started in the last 30 years. Before that, we had intergenerational households where, there's a reason why we live so long. There's a reason why we live into our 60s, 70s, 80s. Most animals, once you've gone past your reproductive benefit of being able to have children, you die.
Yeah.
Some intelligent animals like elephants and us and some other animals, once you've stopped reproducing, we carry on living, and there's a reason for that. That's because we're needed to raise our children's children.
Yeah.
That's why we live so much longer. It's difficult raising children. So grandparents are extra sets of parents who can look after children when the real parents are going out working, hunting, killing, collecting berries, toiling the farm, whatever. When those parents get stressed with their children, you hand them over to to the grandparents. That's what they're there for. Grandparents have a wealth of knowledge. They're the ones who are then, with a new type of education, to their grandchildren about what it was like in the olden days. This is how you do baking. This is how you do this. How you do a bit of gardening. Grandparents are valuable in the bringing up and education of their grandchildren. But we see old people now as a problem. And what do we do with problems? We expect the state to sort that problem out. We treat our old people appallingly, and it's a shame on all of us.
And there's good money in it.
There is, but they don't get the care. And I don't care if they get the care, and I don't care who's taking the money. We have personal responsibility. We have responsibility for our parents, just like they had responsibility for us. And this is another example of us dumping our responsibility on other people. And I know people will be screaming at this podcast because they've done it, and they're going, but we both work full time, and how can we look after them? And we've got them a nice home, and it costs us a fortune. Well, good for you. You shouldn't be working, should you? One of you should be at home. There's ways around this. They should be living in the house with you, not 4 miles away. Yeah. How many children now live miles away from their parents, other side of the country, other side of the world?
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah. And we both moved home because we said something wasn't right. You had to be around your family, which is interesting because as we get more involved with what we're doing, we're starting to realise that even more.
It's all relevant, isn't it?
But don't forget, your parents weren't that old when you were gone. I'm talking about,
they weren't.
I'm talking about elderly people now. They know we abandoned them. We just abandoned them. And I know deep down inside, in the heart of every child who does that, there's something niggling in them. There's something there going, I know it's convenient. I know everyone else is doing it. And I'm going to do it. But deep down inside, they know they shouldn't be doing it. Just like abortion. We all know it's wrong. And you might be able to convince yourself otherwise. People say, oh, well, would you make a 14-year-old girl who was raped by her father have that child? And it's like, that never happens. Out of the 250,000 babies being killed in the UK, that might be once. That might be once in that year.
Yeah.
So that isn't the answer, is it? And we all know.
And there should be exceptions for that circumstance.
I just said that a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I've become harder on this now, because my answer to that is, so because an evil father did something evil to his daughter, we're now going to kill an innocent baby that did nothing wrong to anybody.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I understand it. I don't think that you should have to force a 14-year-old to go through the shame of having her fucking father's daughter because she was raped by him.
How about she gives birth, wants the baby, and then
if she wants it, yeah, fine. But if she doesn't,
but how about 2 weeks later she decides she doesn't want it because every time she sees the baby, it reminds her of being there. Can she kill it then?
Of course not.
So why does it matter if the baby's outside of the womb or in the womb?
Well, there should be a very short period. You shouldn't be allowed to have an abortion like 3 hours before fucking labour.
You can in this country.
No, you can't.
You can. People think in this country it's a 24-week limit.
Yeah.
So the problem in the US is that we're upset because it was a 28-week limit, which is outrageous.
Every state was different.
Yeah,
but
on average.
In this country, anyone can have an abortion up to 24 weeks.
24 weeks?
24 weeks. But you can abort a baby in this country up to the hour you give birth, as long as you get a doctor to sign it off. And it happens every year. Not many.
No.
Not many, but we can abort babies.
I mean, I'm hoping that there's some serious medical conditions for that.
Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
you could abort a baby on the day of birth if it has a club foot, if it has a cleft palate.
Right. Yeah, I did not know that.
They're disabled to a certain extent, but you can abort a baby that was going to be born an hour from now with a club, if it's got a club foot and a doctor signs it off.
I mean, it makes sense if you hear that you just had a scan or something and your baby's brain dead. That makes sense. To me, it does anyway. But a cleft lip?
Yep.
That can't be true.
100% true. People don't know this.
No, I didn't know.
It's absolutely fucking outrageous.
I was always under the impression that they've still got the same amount of time, and if they find it, and they say, right, your baby's got this problem, they still had the same amount of time. I didn't know.
No, all you need is a doctor to sign off.
Right.
That's all you need. No, we either value life or we don't value life. That's why we've got this assisted dying bill coming in. It's because in this country now we don't value life. Life's important. I'm not even religious.
No.
But life's important or it's not important. And once we go down the path of saying that life isn't as important as other people's lives, then that turns us into tyrants and monsters.
Well, the assisted dying bill, it has a place. You know, you don't want to see a loved one dying the most. Like some of these diseases that you can die of over 6 months are fucking horrendous. You should be able to take your life sooner if there's no way around it.
People can commit suicide.
Yeah.
But people don't want to commit suicide. People want the state
to do it for
them.
Yeah.
Again, no personal responsibility.
Yeah.
If my mum was in horrendous pain and dying, I'd kill her if she wanted me to. And I would take responsibility and I'd take the punishment if it got to court and stuff like that. I don't want the state involved, because what will happen when the state is involved is I'll be saying, someone like me would say to my mum, you're a drain on us.
Yeah.
You're a drain. And we know you're dying. You've only got 4 months left to live. But this is going into your savings, Mum. By the time you die, there's going to be nothing left for little Jimmy and Margaret for their college fund. And we can't afford to come anymore now. You are ruining their lives. It'd be better for you, Mum, and for everybody if we can take you to assisted suicide. That's what will happen, because it happens everywhere. We some humans are evil. And this is what will happen. Again, we either protect life or we don't protect life. And if we can say that a baby in the womb, it's okay to kill them because they're brain dead. All right, well, that makes sense. What happens if we have someone lying in the hospital, an adult who's been in a car accident is brain dead. Can we kill them? I never understand why it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay in a room, but once you've left it, the room's a special place because once you've left it, you can't be killed anymore now.
But they do. You do unplug people that are brain dead in comas.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
are you drawing the line between the fact that they're dying themselves still? You turn the plug off and they can't survive? Or?
Yeah, so they unplug them. They don't kill them. It's like we're not going to support them anymore, and then they naturally die. They're not killed. It's just.
Well, you'd have to tell yourself that if you were turning the plug off.
I know, but
you know.
Yeah, I mean, they either stay alive or they don't stay alive because it's the machine keeping them alive. I've just got a real issue of deeming. Because we've seen this before. This is what we did during slavery. And everyone's been slaves across the world. It's like these people aren't like us. Therefore, they don't have the same rights as us. Therefore, we can enslave them. Nazi Germany, did it with the Jews. The Jews aren't like us, so therefore we can exterminate them.
Yeah, other in people.
We're either all human from the second we're conceived as human. Because if you take a 1 hour old embryo and we liquidize both and test the DNA, both the DNA will say human. Because at that moment, they're both humans. Even after 1 hour of being a fertilized egg, you're now human. Your DNA's set, all the chromosome, you're human. So we've either got human rights or we don't. Or we rename them birthed human rights.
Yeah.
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 There has to be a distinction. Isn't there?
Yeah. We either protect life or we don't. And if we don't protect life, it's a slippery slope. You've seen what's happening in Canada.
Yes.
Mentally ill people now are killing themselves, homeless people.
Shopping for doctors that will sign off.
Yep, sign off. The saddest case was a Belgian girl. She was in the nightclub, the Bataclan nightclub in Paris, when the Islamic terrorists attacked 10 years ago with machine guns and killed 30, 40 people. Yeah. Killed some of her friends. She saw them die. Never got over it. Became a manic depressive. Couldn't get over seeing her friends die.
Understandable.
And a couple of years later, she went to Switzerland, assisted suicide, killed herself.
Holy shit.
The people who killed all those people are alive in jail.
Yeah.
And she takes her own life. She didn't need to die. What she needed was better mental health services.
Yeah.
But we allowed her to be another victim of those Islamic nut jobs and to kill herself. That can't be right. I'm sure she was suffering. I'm sure she was.
Oh, yeah, of course she was.
But that's not the answer. The answer is better mental health services for her to get over the trauma she's seen. Genuine trauma. But allowing her to take her own life isn't the answer.